One. Welcome back, everybody. It's Sunday. It's the latest edition of our Watchmen Challenge. Mike, we are almost at the end. Part 7 of our
I
breakdown of
know.
the Frontier. So we're looking at chapters 13 and 14. We're going to finish it next week with an eighth part because issues are chapters 15, 16, 17. Darwyn kind of wraps it up rather fast. And so next week will be the finale of it. And then we'll have our video where we kind of debate the merits of New Frontier versus Watchmen and start kind of our rankings board. But Mike, we start with 13 here, and we get an appearance from your favorite, Barry Allen, coming out of retirement.
I
What's your
know.
thoughts on issue on chapter 13 of New Frontier?
I love how they kind of tease, in the comics that came out in the 60s, um, Barry ends up revealing himself to Iris as the Flash rather early on, and then they get married um, towards the end of the Silver Age. But I like how Darwyn kind of expedited it and did it in there. Like Iris was always depicted as a very intelligent woman. Of course, she's, a reporter. So she was able to figure out that he was the Flash, and she hands him the uniform. Here you go.
Mhm.
Go take care of business, Tiger. And that's why he loves her, and that's why she loves him. And so I think it was very fitting the way he portrayed those two characters. I thought it was in character and something that did happen in the Silver Age when he came clean with Iris. So that was really cool.
No, I think Darwin does such a good job with little moments like this, and really in this chapter 13, we're kind of getting the final farewells before this big battle. Basically we see three relationships that have evolved throughout the book, and I love how Darwin treats Iris West. Sometimes these characters, Mary Jane, Lois Lane, Iris West, the civilian wives or girlfriends of superheroes, kind of get treated like these throwaway damsel in distress characters at times, or that's the reputation they get. And what I love that Darwin got it on this is if you actually really read those characters, Mary Jane, Lois Lane, Iris West, yeah, there's issues where they are the damsel in distress. But what separated them and made them great characters was there are these moments where they're able to inspire the hero, connect with the
Yeah.
hero, and I love that they really touched on that here. I thought that was really great writing. We get the culmination after that, Mike, of Faraday and Martian Manhunter. They've kind of built a friendship over this time. We see John kind of adopt his more heroic persona looking inspired by Superman. That payoff of that relationship between the two, the kind of interplay of the two, where they start off as enemies and really build this friendship throughout. How did you feel Darwin handled that? Because it was a significant portion of this book.
Um, I I like the way he built the relationship between the two characters. I'm not sure how historically that played out. Because Martian Manhunter didn't have like a run of his own comics. He appeared here and there. And interestingly enough, there are some folks who count the beginning of the Silver Age as when he first appeared in Batman in the mid 50s, 54, 55. I
Mm-hmm.
forget what the issue number is, but I like the way that he and Faraday, built this trust. I like the way that he portrayed Martian Manhunter true to the end, and how Faraday says, you could have broke out of here at any point, and he earns Faraday's trust by staying with it. And Faraday finally realizes he's an ally that he can trust, and they need to do something to tackle this challenge that confronts all of the world.
Yeah, I thought it was great, and this is where I'll start giving New Frontier a lot of credit. Is we're doing this to compare things to Watchmen, and one of the things is Watchmen's so beautiful in terms of when you read the book, there everything matters. right? There's no panels or subplots or storylines that go nowhere. And King Faraday has been a rather large role in this. And obviously, I think he's what Kanigher and Carmine Infantino, I believe, created that character. It's cool that Darwyn found a character like that that fit this role as secret agent created by DC Legends, and that he actually gets a substantive part of this that narratively works. And like you said, Martian Manhunter is such a cool character, and that, like, basically we know him as a part of the Justice League, but he never really got his huge long run of comic books on his own. He never really seems to have had a huge supporting cast or anything. He doesn't have the Lois Lane or the Iris West or even an Alfred or a Commissioner Gordon, really. And so it was a really cool strategy. I thought they added a lot to that character. And I think overall, I mean, I don't know for sure, but it feels really like Darwyn really loved Martian Manhunter as a character, and that he gets such a cool role in this book, and it carries throughout. And we're really just at the tip of the spear of what he'll do the rest of this book. But I thought that was
Also,
really,
there's, the foreshadowing where Martian Manhunter has a more sensitive connection to the center,
yeah,
and that
absolutely.
he's having to face it internally before they face it externally, which is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a really cool thing they built in there. We last get, and probably the main character of this story, if there is one. We get a couple of splashes of Green Arrow, the Sea Devils, the Blackhawks. Again, really cool stuff from Cooke as far as integrating all of DC. And I thought that was really cool, kind of seeing them in there. Mike, if you want to hold it, we get the Hal Jordan dramatic goodbye to Carol Ferris.
They
Um,
finally kiss.
yeah, I think
What a
it's
splash page that is, though. Isn't that cool?
no, and it captures so perfectly, those iconic kind of images of the 40s and 50s of soldiers going off to war, returning from war, that kind of thing. And I think he
Yeah.
does such a good job, and obviously a superhero twist on that. It's such a cool thing that he does with Hal Jordan in this novel, and I think that's one thing when I was younger, this novel used to frustrate me, especially this portion, because there's very little to no Batman. And so I used to always look at DC Comics through the spectrum of what's Batman's role? And he
Yeah.
doesn't really have much of one at the end here. But what I will give him as an older fan reading this, what I think has stood out, he does such excellent character work with Hal Jordan. From the beginning, is introducing him in Korea as kind of this conscientious objector who is there. He's brave, but he won't kill, to his growth as a pilot and being reckless, and building these friendships and everything that evolves with him and Carol. You really see this is almost a Green Lantern origin story built into this new frontier. He does such a good job. That really stood out to me. How do you think he handled Green Lantern throughout? Because this is kind of the big culmination of Green Lantern finally embracing being that character.
Yeah, I would say in this story, you could tell the main protagonists are Martian Manhunter and Hal Jordan.
Mm,
And John Jones and Hal Jordan. I love the story, the way he built the character up and how his father flew in World War II with Chuck Yeager. That kind of, I love it when they play around with history and fiction. It brings a sense of realism to it that I love that stuff. And so yeah, I think he did Hal Jordan proud. We do see his origin story, and the development of his character over the arc of the story. He becomes and well, he hasn't yet where we are now, but he's about to become fully actualized as a hero.
and I love the contrast that we start in this chapter with, where you've got Barry and Iris in this very solid relationship where they very support, and these two, they're kind of cussing at each other. They're mad, and Carol, they love each other, obviously, but Carol's a little more explosively angry at Hal. Hal's very defensive. I
And
love the part,
he's his boss.
yeah. No, and I love the part at
So
the end where Hal's like, if I,
yeah.
because he's saying I'm not a coward, and he's mad because he thought Carol was insinuating he was a coward. He's like, if I am I love the line. If I am a coward, it's in matters of the heart. It's the noise of the jets isn't enough for me. I wait until my helmet's on to finally say it. And he says, "I love you, Carol," but in a way where she'll never hear it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And again, I thought that was such a cool contrast of those two characters, and that one of the cool things about Darwyn that he does so well, and I think DC got better at this, Like you have always said as a comic book historian, you told me one of the big critiques of DC was always people felt like you could take the cowl off of Bruce Wayne and the power ring off Hal Jordan, flip them, and you basically had the same character for a long time with DC. And I do think there is some periods in the early 50s where every DC hero is a little similar. They got better at differentiating that. And Darwyn in this chapter, such a stark contrast of who Barry Allen is and who Hal Jordan is. Kind of, I thought it was just a great way to kind of cap the chapter and do some cool things. Really, really, really cool to see him do that.
And I feel that they get that wrong. They're painting with a broad brush there. For fans of these individual characters, that it's usually a Marvel historian who tries to paint it that way. So I generally will take
There's
umbrage
always
and
the Marvel
disagree,
fans to the
but
people who have that. Yeah, for sure.
but I've heard that said several times about the early Silver Age DC characters, and I challenge that, sir. But go ahead.
We pivot to chapter 14 to kind of close out this portion, and this is the Superman heavy portion of the book. And
I
we get a little
know.
bit of a rug pull at the end. So we get an emotional moment with Superman and Wonder Woman, where we kind of see Wonder Woman's in a rough spot. Um,
And we get this brief little panel glimpse of the struggle that went on at Paradise Island,
for sure. Uh,
which is, which was imagined in the issue before.
no, I think I'll say this. I mean, we talk about the goodbye between Superman and Diana and all that. I think Wonder Woman by Darwyn Cooke is the best version of Wonder Woman. I think they
I would agree.
I think George, I'm not nothing against George Perez is obviously very close, right? I'm not going to say anybody's wrong on that, but I think the way that Darwyn draws Wonder Woman, the way they build on her as he perfectly balances, because I think with Wonder Woman, there's always the issue of they either draw her as way too peaceful or way too warrior like. And so you
Yeah.
either get soft, touchy feely Wonder Woman who has, oh, it's just the power of love and all that and everything, or you get the like, she wants to cut everyone's head off. And I think
Yeah.
Darwyn draws the best balance of those two in terms of she has her own
I
honor
mean,
code, but she is a more empathetic hero who saves
look at
people.
those
That
top two
goodbye with Superman is
panels.
really cool.
I mean, she is a warrior, but then look, she kisses Clark and says, "Go get him, spaceman," or whatever. And look at Clark. He is despondent, and then a minute later, he goes to face, and this is one of the turning points of the story. All these heroes are gathered, but they're all bickering and arguing,
Now,
you know,
I loved
and
my, my
he just leaves Diana's side, and he doesn't know if she's going to live or die.
mhm.
And he's got to go, bring this motley group of superheroes together to rally them to the cause.
When they get this great part where we're not sure if it's the center affecting everybody or not. What I love that Darwyn did, and I thought this was one of the strongest chapters. Superman is not affected at all. I loved that portion in terms of that you've got everybody bickering, everybody's fighting. He listens out the window. I think you've got, Captain Atom and a couple other characters are arguing with the Sergeant Rock and all that, and they're bickering. You've got tensions that have built over the story of, they tried to capture Barry and not try. And I love that Superman is the one who's seeing clearly. And he goes down. I love that moment that Darwyn puts in where Superman goes down. You see his eyes go red, and he just splashes his hands, kind of like a
Yeah,
whole thunderclap kind of thing to quiet the
right,
crowd.
right,
And then
right.
immediately he's back to Superman, and he gives the inspiring, fired up speech about this again, where I will always give Darwyn so much credit. Superman doesn't have a lot in this book, but what he gets here, where Superman's like, you know what, I'm done. I'm done trying to be the government good guy. I'm going to do the right thing to do the right thing. I thought that was such a cool moment. How do you think he handled Clark throughout this story?
I think it was great. I think he wrote Superman well. It's like, for these characters, it almost feels like, he had uh it's almost like he really had an intuitive sense on how to depict them. And this is 2004, I believe.
Hmm.
Comics were in a weird place. Um, and Darwin's always been one who said, we need to get back to this. And so he took from his heart what he loved about these characters and made sure that it got onto the page, which is
Hmm.
not something that any creator can do at the drop of a hat. Um, you know, when you're a comic creator, you get thrown on this book or that book, and a lot of times you don't get a say as to what you want to do. And as I understand how the story goes, they wanted him to do a Justice League type story,
Hmm.
and he puts this out. I mean, this is tremendous. Like, I mean, that's amazing. How he came to it. But I think he handled Clark very well. I really do.
You make a great point with that in terms of one of the things rereading this that really stands out to me. He really seems to get to who the heart of these characters are. And even the characters who just appear in a few panels or a few pages. I'd say this. I mean, like, what's crazy is like Batman's not in this much, but when he is, it's very much Batman. You're like, okay, he gets this guy, right? Flash. There's incredible Flash moments in this. Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, Superman, Diana, right? And he's balancing it all.
Lois
It just
Lane.
Lois Lane, yeah. Um, Carol Ferris, all of them. It just, the thing that I read this, and sadly, because he's tragically passed, the thing that it makes me wish we had, man, it's like, I wish there was an extended Darwyn Cooke run on Superman, an extended Darwyn
Yeah,
Cooke run on Flash. If we'd have had 2 years of Darwyn Cooke on some of these characters, I think those could have been legendary runs because he just seems to have such a great heart and voice for these characters. We kind of get to the closing of this one. We get this with the rug pull. Superman gives the inspiring speech, goes in to face it, and basically gets wiped out very fast. Um, Rather shocking moment for it. We see kind of the devastation in Lois's face. How do you think Darwyn set that up? How'd that hit you in the story when you saw that portion of it again?
it was an absolute gut punch. At this point of the story, he's basically just going like on a recon mission to rally the troops and find a plan of attack. And he just gets decimated instantly. So it's a great device because now you, along with all the heroes, are just taken down a peg, and the reality sinks in as to what it's gonna or what it may take to defeat this. And it just gives it an extra dramatic um tinge to it because as a reader, you're like, well, there's no hope. I mean, that's it. You know,
Yeah,
how is this gonna, what's gonna be in the next issue? You know,
that kind of takes us to our close of the chapter. We get Phantom Stranger, Doctor Fate, Shazam, or Captain Marvel at that time, or as he probably still should be Captain Marvel, Zatanna. We get a kind of a collection of the Spectre as well. We get our collection of our mystical heroes on the moon, kind of deciding to sit this one out, talking about how humanity needs to win this on their own without the magical characters. What
that
I'll say,
splash page is great, isn't it?
no, he draws these characters so well. My 2 cents on this, Mike, before you kind of close it out on it. I don't think this was the greatest reason for those characters not to get involved, but what I will appreciate that Darwyn Cooke did. There are so many times when you get a universe wide thing like this. Um, Marvel does this all the time with their event books, where the
Yeah,
characters who would solve the problem are always just conveniently absent, right? Like
yeah,
Marvel's Civil War comic. Well, thank goodness the real Thor and Hulk sat that one out. Otherwise, those two tipped the scales.
yeah.
And so I love that he put these pages in that. I don't know that it's story wise the best reason for these guys not to get involved, but I love that there was acknowledgement of the reason you're not seeing Spectre or Dr. Fate or a lot of these characters who could come in is this. I appreciate that it was there, even if I don't think it was the greatest reasoning. How did you feel about him including that?
I think it was editing. I really do. I think
Mhm.
if they had given him longer legs on this story, he would have worked him in. And I just have a feeling that that's the way it was. I don't know that for sure
I
because
still love
he
that he put him in.
certainly had every other character, in there. And that whole first couple of chapters with the losers and and
Mhm.
all that. He probably could have worked him in. But I think this was only, it wasn't even 12 issues, was it?
Yeah, it was six when it came out. We're breaking it down two chapters at a time, but yeah, it was a six
Yeah.
issue series when
Yeah.
it came out.
So you can't blame the guy for
There's
trying.
only so much landscape in a story. And what I will give him credit though is unlike a lot of those stories where it's just we're just not even going to address where Thor is or Hulk is. He
Yeah.
does put them in, you get them on panel, he draws them obviously beautifully because it's Darwyn Cooke, and you at least get something where you can go, okay, that's why Spectre's
Yeah.
not there. That's
Yeah.
why
What about
Zatanna's not there.
Shazam? Why wasn't he in there? And Dr. Fate could take on the center,
Yeah,
certainly the Spectre
Doctor
could.
Fate, the Spectre, and Phantom Stranger might end that battle rather quick.
You could hear his inner geek saying, "Hey, what about?" And he was trying to, but I liked it. It was beautifully drawn.
Yeah, no, so that takes us to the end of these two chapters. Some great character moments. I thought just building stakes, throwing things out there, as you'd expect, really holds up well. But let us know if you're reading along with us. What do you guys think? What do you think of part seven of this? Part eight for us, we are going to wrap up New Frontier next week, finish it out, and talk about our overall thoughts on it. Let us know what you think down below, folks. As always, God bless you. We'll catch you in our next episode. Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.